Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and I am delighted to be here with you today as always. This is the Breaking Free Show, and we have a really great show in store for you today. So get a pen, get a paper, just sit back, chill out, and just listen. And you can also take part in our show anytime you like. You can always call into the studio at 919-518-9773 and join our conversation. There's a chat. If you like, you can put your name, nickname next to the video and put your name in there and partake in what goes on in the live chat anytime you like. So before we get started and before I introduce my guest to you today, I want to say hi to Amnon, who is busy with our tech stuff. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe. I don't know.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm just fine.
Yeah, everything
Yeah,
going good?
everything is going just
Okay,
fine.
you're gonna love today's show.
I know. You
You
will
love
too.
every show. I love every show. Every show's my favorite. Anyway, so today the topic is going to be sexual expression and social media, but no telling where we're going to take it. And we have two phenomenal guests on with us today. We have Eboni Harris, who is a podcaster. Her podcast is Sex and Relationships, and she's a therapist. And I love this quote from her. She works from the first date to the last orgasm, and we got to hear about that. And then our second guest is going to be Nicole Delacroix. And her favorite, I think I got it right, her favorite people are Mae West and Madonna. Now, let me tell you, anybody who can say that's got to be really cool. She has a book called Sexual Con- Confessional Confidential Admissions from Social Media. So we all know that we are inundated with information, with a whole shift in how we do things. And today we're going to focus on some of those shifts and how it relates to social media and what's going on. So let me welcome our guests and let me say hello to Eboni. Hi, Eboni.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And then Nicole, how are you?
Hello, Marilyn. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. So, before we really get into the meat of this show, let me have each of our guests kind of share a little bit more about themselves. So, Eboni, why don't you start?
Okay, yes, I'm a relationship therapist here in Texas. I work with couples and individuals on improving their communication and their intimacy. And I host a weekly sex and relationship podcast every Monday called Room for Relations.
Room for relations. Isn't there always room? That's what I think. So,
Yes.
thank you for being here. And Nicole, what about you?
Well, I am an author and an IT professional because, we always have to have that second job that pays the bills. And I am a closet Anglophile, although most people who know me will say I'm not in the closet about that anymore. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan and I love British tea.
What a combination, huh? Sounds great. So why don't we start about this thing about sexual expression in social media? So Nicole, why don't you start? Because you've written this book. So tell us where you're going with this.
Well, a lot of the purpose behind my book is I wanted to show that we have this need to almost hide ourselves and not communicate the way that we should. And by offering up the people who participated in the survey that brought the book to fruition, I gave them the opportunity of being completely anonymous. And I found that when we put that mask of anonymity on, we tend to be a lot more honest than we probably should be.
Well, maybe more honest than we feel like we can be.
That's
Yeah.
true. And I thought it was really interesting because a lot of people hide behind that either it's a religious thing or a moral thing or even an environmental thing. And when I gave them the opportunity of just completely being anonymous, they were able to let go of those inhibitions and those fears
Mhm.
and open themselves up and really tell people what they thought. And I thought that it was a beautiful way of showing people that communication is key. And sometimes you have to let go of those things that scare you the most in order to be free and honest.
Absolutely. Because we could pick a lot of things to keep us from communicating. I mean, dotting every I, crossing every T, every, this relationship, that relationship, this issue, that issue. We can make things, stand in our way all the time. So, to get us really started, based on your book, what did you find out?
Well, first of all, I was completely blown away by the number of people who actually answered my call to answer my survey, and was completely blown away that I had answers from almost every single country in the world. And what I learned, and I hope that people will learn from reading my book, is that whether it's someone in China or somebody in Afghanistan, the answers always seem to sound like my own answers or my friends' answers. And it just proves that even though we live in different places and we have different beliefs and we have different things that drive us, we all have these same inherent fears and inhibitions, and we all pretty much are the same. And we need to start embracing those things and stop focusing on the differences.
You know, it's so interesting because I'm doing a talk tomorrow about diversity. And it's, for me, it's really all about, you know, you might see somebody from China and they have this culture and they have this religion, a way of doing this, you know, women are this, men are this. But when you get past those things, we're all the same. So those are not the things that we want to land on, because when we listen past those things, we get to really what's going on. And as far as intimacy, we all want to be loved, hugged, and rubbed. That's what I say.
I like that. And my mother has a perfect way of putting it. She taught me this from the time I was really young, is that in 150 years, when you're dead and buried or whatever, you're nothing more than bones. And everybody's pretty much the same at that level. So we've got to stop trying to pick out the differences and trying to isolate ourselves. We need to embrace our sameness and try to help each other through this.
Absolutely. So, Ebony, so you've been listening a little bit. What would you say based on
I would
your
agree.
experience?
I think a lot of times, and I like how you pointed out gender roles. I think that we have this idea of what a man and a woman should be, and especially when it comes to their sexuality or their intimacy, taking the lead, or who needs this and who needs that. And in the end, we usually all are interested or need the same things. There aren't that big of a difference when it comes to the different gender roles. I think that we we look at men want sex more, women, and we all want intimacy. It just may look different for per person. It's not even necessarily men or women. It's just each person needs different things.
Yeah, and we come from different backgrounds. Our experiences are different. You know, our role models have been different, and we come at it differently. But ultimately, if we can, I mean, if people can help each other get to the point of communicating honestly, and asking the right questions without judgment, I think we have a good chance, more than a good chance, of getting somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Ebony, I
I
don't
know.
know if you turned on another light or a
It's the
window open
sun.
in front of you.
It's the sun.
Yeah,
There you
okay,
go.
now that's
Oh,
good.
there she is. She's alive. She was looking like she was not alive there for a few
The
minutes.
sun just came out of nowhere.
Good. So, Nicole, so specifically, and about sexual expression in social media, because what does that mean exactly? Because social media, you can remain anonymous for sure, but at the same time, social media does bring people out. So you might not be a face, but you do tend to communicate, and you are, in certain cases, vulnerable, even though you're not a face. So can you go into that with us some?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think with technology and social media that we are really embarking on some uncharted territory now. There's really no body language for us to read, and there's no social cues. So I
Yeah.
think that it becomes almost a little bit harder to find those meaningful, fulfilling, lifelong relationships. I mean, I think any of us who have Facebook have friends on Facebook that we have no idea how we're friends with these people, which I think is a great thing because contact is easier and you get to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet. But my concern is that we have this contact with groups of people that we may never have met any other way other than social media. But how much do we share in their lives? I mean, do we take the time to really get to know someone? I'm a perfect example of that. One of my best friends lives in the UK. I've literally never met this person face to face, but her and I took the time and we we connected on so many different levels that I honestly would do anything in the world for this woman, and I've never seen her face to face.
So, is that good or not good?
I think it's good when people take the time to really, get to know someone and dig deep and not just have that superficial, contact of, hey, I'm following you and you're following me, and, let's leave it at that. I think that, these are perfect little opportunities for us to enhance our own lives by learning about people who live in other countries and have other experiences, and to get input about what they think and what their environment is like. And I think that if people take the time to do that, it can be a wonderful thing. But we've got this private life that has become public. We also have to learn how to turn off the social media and not do the play-by-play of what's going on in your day, so that you do have that little bit of privacy when you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it sounds like intentional decisions to become committed and to build a connection with someone, which sometimes we don't do via social media.
And that's exactly what I'm saying is that we do need to take that time to be committed to saying that I want the right type of people to be my so-called social friend. Mm-hmm. And get to know that person, not just because, for whatever reason, like you want to build your Twitter following. Mm-hmm. I want the people who follow me to be interested in what I have to say, because I'm very interested in what they have to say. And I want to help them in their careers or whatever project they have going on, just like I want them to support me in my endeavors. Mm-hmm. So I think that social media is a great thing. Technology has made this world so much smaller. Mm-hmm. But we also need to take into consideration that the people in it are people, and we need to treat them just like we would if we were face to face, get to know them and engage in their lives and help them with what they want to achieve in their lives, just like we would expect that from them.
Here's a question that I think is a good one for where we are right now and for what we're discussing. So how can social media serve as a tool to grow intimacy in a committed relationship, or even expand it? How do you create an intimate relationship using social media?
Well, I think that once you get past the scripted conversations and you weed out the people who are only in it to be social, again, it takes commitment on each person's part to become part of their life. I know, like with my friend in the UK, she's a writer as well, and that was our initial connection. Above and beyond that, we had so many other things that we had in common that we just stopped and started having a chat and started talking to each other and said, well, these are the things that I like, and these are the things that you like. And we found those common grounds, just like you would any person that you meet at work or school or wherever you would meet someone. You find those things that you connect on, and you engage each time you can with that person to try and build that relationship, instead of just letting them be that virtual friend that you only see whenever you're on Twitter.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also goes into what social media was initially made for, which is sharing. So the things that we share is what connects us to other people. If I am talking about a particular topic all of the time, then I'm going to attract people that are interested in that same topic. Now it's up to, like Nicole said, it's up to us to take that offline and to take that into like getting to know each other on a more personal level. But it's very easy when you're sharing, you're connecting in that way based on what you're putting out there.
Nicole, did you have anything to add to that?
Oh, absolutely. I think me and Eboni are kind of on the same page on this one. See, we're connecting already.
I was just thinking that the three of us.
We absolutely,
yes,
we
fabulous.
all kind of had that same mind meld, and it's almost like an organic way that it happens. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity where people get to see you face to face, even if you're not physically in the room with them. You get to share experiences with them. You get to know those deep thoughts that they have. And yes, there are a lot of people out there that catfish and troll and do all of those things. The thing is that most of those people get weeded out, and I think that the social media companies like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, they're getting very conscious about it, and they're blocking those types of spam related things and making sure that the connections can become what we need them to be, which is a little bit more intimate, a little bit closer. And, we have to accept the fact that, our world has become this mesh of experiences that we can pretty much reach out, and I can reach out to somebody in the UK in 3 seconds. It wasn't like that many years ago.
Right.
I mean, I've got friends, I did podcasts in Africa, which I would have never dreamed of doing if I didn't have my social media. And I feel like I've connected with people in other countries. And for me, I think that makes me a better person, because I can incorporate their experiences and their ideas and the way that they see life into my own life to fulfill myself.
So it's a good thing. So often people put down social media for one reason or another, whether it's their children are on it too much, or this is happening or that's happening. But what we're doing actually is, we've got this tool, and we are being put into situations, and there are situations that are available to us that we can take part in that we've not had to deal with before. I'm a networker, I love to meet people. So my way of meeting people in the past was to go maybe to a restaurant, to go to an event, to do certain things like that. And I could troll, right? I could peruse. I could meet one person or two people, get a business card, connect, have a drink, and leave, connect with them afterwards. Well, my way of connecting now is still that way, but now I have to adapt how I do it and the things that I look for in my networking now. So now I'm listening for what people are saying. I'm listening for what they constantly are saying, the things that they're interested in, how they, there are different clues that I am now looking for that make it much easier. And the beauty is that the world can connect. We can connect. Now let's figure out how to do that and make it safe. What were you going to say, Eboni?
Well, I was just thinking, when you were talking, that it is, we still meet people out, but the first thing we do is find them on social media.
Yeah.
So it's a way to, even when you are meeting people face to face, to stay connected without having to necessarily send that email once a month. Like, I can see what's going on in your life, and then I can comment on that, and vice versa. So we tend to, even if we do start with a face-to-face connection, it does lead to social media, where it helps us stay connected and stay involved and know what's going on without having to send that monthly email or anything like that.
So do either one of you see this as a detriment to creating intimate relationships, or do you see this as a good thing?
Well, I think it falls on both ends of the scale for me. I see, and I loved the way that you put it, Marilyn. You said that social media is a tool. Just like any tool, you wouldn't hand it to your child and let them go and play with it without telling them what the dangers are and how they're supposed to use that tool. I wouldn't hand my child a saber saw and say, hey, go have fun. So as long as we're watching what our children are doing and we're participating in what they're doing, we can keep our children safe. But we also have to make sure that social media doesn't become distorted, because again, on that other side of it, we have these horrible stories of kids that are being cyberbullied because people think that they're not attractive enough. And I think that a lot of social media, especially Instagram and selfies, God help me, I hate them. They contribute to girls' self-esteem issues, and not just girls, but boys as well. But we see these girls who already don't have that much self-esteem, that they post pictures of themselves on Instagram in disarray and lack of clothing, for better, description of it. And they wonder why the only time boys pay attention to them is because they want a naked picture of them. And we need to let kids know that it's okay that you look different from me, and that, there's a beauty to you being just you. You don't have to live up to some crazy standard that most people can't live up to. And I love the fact that the most beautiful woman in the world was Marilyn Monroe, and she was a size 12. She wasn't a skinny supermodel, but she was beautiful because she was who she was, and she always let herself shine through. And I think that that's one of the things that we need to be sure that we're telling children that social media is a tool. And yes, it's a great way to connect with people, but you also have to understand that there are going to be people out there who are going to attack you for nothing more than that they have nothing better to do today.
Mm-hmm. Well, we in every generation, we had these great magazines when I was growing up, right? Where people look, we had Twiggy, we had this one, we had that one, where their waists were like, nothing. So in every generation, we have things. The idea is about each of us getting stronger and stronger within ourselves, so that we're not easily persuaded by the negativity, that we do empower our children to be strong and have healthy self-esteem, so that the good things about these good tools, we can really use them for good, rather than taking us down the narrow path, into the alleyway and destroying us. We need, so I think it's really important that we pay attention to, just no matter what the tool, that we just get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Eboni?
I was thinking very differently,
Okay.
Mainly because I'm a relationship therapist. I'm, of course, thinking about how it affects couples, marriages, and things like that. I do think that, as both of you said, it is a tool, and we have to know what we want. How do we want to use it? What do we need it for? Why is it important? Along with that, I think that it can cause issues in relationships if I'm connecting with people that I would never have connected with before. If I'm meeting people that I would have never met before, it does cause trust issues. It does cause intimacy problems, and even to the point of infidelity, or just curiosity about what else is out there. So I do see that a lot. I know there was a research a while ago that said Facebook was like the #1 cited reason for divorce at one point, because people were connecting to too many people at that point, and it was not so much used as a tool. It was causing issues and causing conflict within relationships.
Absolutely. And that was one of my questions I was going to ask you is, very often on Facebook, I'll get a gentleman to private message me, or I'll get gentlemen who want to be my friend, right? And sometimes I'm sure that there are good ones, and I'll look and see, oh, we have one mutual friend, or we have 5 mutual friends, and sometimes there isn't any. And I would love to make their friends, but I'm curious if there is, I don't know, is a way to make sure that they are truly wanting to connect because we have mutual interests. We're doing similar work. We have things to learn from each other, not for anything else.
Yeah, there always has to be a level of caution when it comes to that, because again, it's great because it connects us, but it connects us with so many people.
Yeah.
So just like anything else, you have to have a level of caution to kind of, as you guide you through those decisions, as you are being approached and friended by people that maybe you don't know. The good thing is that it is at a distance, so you can control a lot when it comes to that. And while it may not feel as close or as connected, it's good that you kind of have that distance to decide whether or not this is something I want to move forward. And if I don't, I can block you, as opposed to if I met you in real life, or we exchange numbers, or, you met somewhere where I frequent, then I would have to change my whole routine. So it can be a very positive thing, but yeah, you do have to take caution just like everything else.
And I definitely agree with you both on that one. And I think I take it one step further. The cyber stalker in me just can't help myself. I actually look at, when somebody wants to be my friend, I want to look at their previous posts on Facebook. I want to look at their Twitter feed. I want to see if we do have anything in common. If I read through 20 posts that they've posted and there's nothing that jumps out at me that says that we have anything in common, and they've sent me a private message, I might come back to them and say, I would love to connect with you. How is it that what interest do you have that we share in common? Give me something that we can connect on. And generally by that point, they either don't respond to me because it was more of a, oh, hey, I saw your picture and I want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And, or they will come back and say, hey, I heard you on so-and-so, or I read your book, or, they'll give me a good reason, or they'll say, hey, my friend recommended that, you and I might have something in common. And generally you can weed them out just by doing a little, savvy looking at what they've talked about. Generally, I do the same thing with Twitter. I read the Twitter feed, and, if within 20 posts, I don't see something that sparks my interest about that person, I generally don't add them as a friend. Most of the time, and I love the fact that now you can't send direct messages to people in Twitter unless they're your friend already. So that's kind of
that's
a
great.
plus.
Yes, that's great. Good. Yeah, those are very good points.
Yeah, and I think that Twitter and Facebook have gotten to the point where they're a little bit more cautious. They're almost policing people from being able to bot or to just add you randomly if they don't have any connection to you. Right. And I think that that's one of the good things that they've started to implement, because again, social media came around so fast that we really didn't have any measurement to compare it to. So it's kind of a learning curve for them as well.
Yeah, and as it is for all of us. And let me just say, for everyone that's listening, if you'd like to connect with us on the phone, you can, 919-518-9773. And can they still come in on? And if you are at your computer and you want to connect with us on Skype, you can at computers, that's plural, number 2K voice. And don't forget about our chat. There's a bunch of stuff going on in there. And you're more than welcome to take part. Just put your name in there. And if you have a question for Eboni or Nicole, you are more than welcome to call into the studio or chat with us, and I'll relay the message to her. So were one of you getting ready to speak when I kind of interrupted just then?
No.
Okay. I want to get into, and then Chris wrote something here that I'll share from the chat. And then I'd like to talk about sexual expression, period. I think that there's opportunities of freedom here, that we can talk about intimacy. And, a while back, I had this beautiful guest on who was an artist, and she painted nudes. And I went through a funky thing myself when I was posting for the show. I was like, okay, should I post her picture? Shouldn't I post her picture? What will Facebook do? What will Twitter do? What will people think? Will they think it's porn? Will they think it's this? Will they think it's that? And I went through this whole personal thing. And then I said, you know what? I'm posting it anyway because I'm doing it and it's not porn. I had to get myself into a better connect myself to a better frame of mind. And it was a beautiful show. And we talked about our body and we talked about honoring ourselves. And people loved the painting she did, and it turned out beautifully. So I do want to ask you, where we are with this, and how are we being with our sexual expression, and is social media a part of the good? Is it a part of the not so good? Is it just helping us? Is it speeding our process? What's going on? So either one of you want to start? Nicole?
I think I started last time.
Okay.
I'm happy to start again, but I was going to let Eboni go first.
All right,
this
Eboni,
time.
rock and roll, honey.
Okay, well, I'll start. I definitely think that social media is a great way to connect like-minded people. I completely understand your hesitance, because even me, I'm a relationship therapist, I focus on sex and intimacy and communication. There are times when I post things and I'm like, oh, who's going to see this? How is this going to come across? But then in the end, I want to make sure I'm representing myself and who I am and what my business is. So it's okay to have that twinge. But it's also kind of like, well, why is this such a big deal? Like, this is human nature.
You're right.
We're
That's where I want to get to. I want to get to that.
Where we are allowed to flaunt our sexuality if that's what we choose to do. I do think that social media has like two sides. You have like the sexual and then the oversexed, and so it's kind of hard to make sure that you don't fall into one or the other, whichever side you choose. But I think it's a great way to be able to express yourself and have like-minded people, which would go back to that connection, follow you and you follow back, and you get to have those conversations with the people that it's meant for.
So, what kinds of things do you post that would be in the category of sexual self expression?
So I'll especially when we talk about the show, our my podcast is sex positive, so we talk about anything and everything. And so I'll post sex toys, or I'll post anything, any research about like masturbation, or how sex improves relationships, or things like that. I try not to post anything offensive. I'm very careful in that, but I'll post pictures. I have people that I would love to interview on the show that do nudes and do very provocative art, and I would have no issue with posting that, because I feel like, again, there's an audience for that and people are interested in it, even if we aren't saying it out loud. One thing I do have to be careful about, though, and this is my own conscience, is I do see that there are kids that sometimes follow the podcast. I don't know if it's just because they typed in sex or what, so I have to kind of go through and make sure that I kind of, if I can, block them, and I don't ever want to be the influence on someone else's child.
Good. Nicole?
Well, again, I think social media is a double-edged sword. Although I think I'm on a different scale than Eboni is. I think there's just the overly sexed, and then there's the prim proper business club, because that's generally, I don't ever see anything in between, and that's where I would like to see people land, is somewhere in between. Is that, it's great to have a professional, wonderful message, and I applaud you, Eboni, for having a sex positive and a wonderful place where people can express who they are and not feel judged. And there's not enough of that in the world, and I think there needs to be more. But again, and I wonder if it's the way that we're brought up, or our environment, that we see nudity as porn. And I think that's kind of, it's, we have that choice. We can say, oh, it's a lovely nude picture, or it's porn. And for some reason, we tend to jump to the porn before we jump to the regular just nudity. And I think that, again, it can be a horrible thing when a young girl who has maybe low self-esteem gets on Instagram, she posts a picture of herself, and people come at her and say, you need to fix your nose, or you need to get plastic surgery. And that girl doesn't embrace the uniqueness that is who she is, and says, you know what, I want to be a cookie cutter doll. And I tend to enjoy speaking to people and being around people who tend to embrace who they are. And I think it goes back to the confidence. And I, as a woman and hopefully a mother at some point in my life, I would hope that I would teach my children that, you have to enjoy and embrace who you are, and let all that other stuff just be static, because nobody knows who you are except for you. And you have to accept you no matter what, warts and all, and enjoy life. Because if you spend your life wondering, you're going to end up at the end with regrets, and I don't want anybody to feel that way. So I think, again, we go back to that. It's a tool, and we need to make sure that children understand how to use it.
I also wanted to your point about when that young woman posts a picture of herself, is equally as damaging when someone comes on and comments on her curves or her lips or anything, making sexual comments about a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old. That can be just as damaging on self-esteem, even if they are saying, well, I just think you look nice. Well, why does it have to be such a sexual thing? So that can be just as bad.
Exactly. And it goes back to, my first question is going to be is, why is a 14-year-old on Instagram? They shouldn't be.
But they are.
They are. And it goes back to, what is she not getting from her family or her friends that she feels the need that she needs to post a picture of herself? And I know that, teens today have become obsessed with social media. I mean, and a lot of it has to do with the people that they look up to as celebrities, because that's all they know is, okay, this person's famous because they're on Instagram, or they're famous because they're on YouTube. And I think that as Americans, we have this inherent need to be famous for some reason. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. I think it makes us achieve more, but it also makes us base all of our feelings on what we see and not what we feel.
So, Nicole, are you for expression using social media, like Nicole is like Ebony is using it like for people. In other words, when we okay, let me just are you for it? Just
I think yes. I
okay.
think ultimately, yes, it's a wonderful way that you can reach out to other people and you can use it to either build self esteem or to get information or to in this case listen to a podcast that maybe helps you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you can communicate, but it
Mm-hmm.
needs to ultimately be a tool and one in an arsenal of tools. It
Mm-hmm.
needs to not be the only tool.
So, and I agree with both of you. I am. I think one of the things that I like to do here is, in some regard, and that's the only word I can use, is commercialize in some regard certain things that we have as stigmas that don't necessarily need to be a stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, because when they're a stigma, then we make them wrong, and then this, and then people want to hide, and that's why we have some things that are just so messy, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So if we talk more about things and we're more open about things, then we can have a healthier outlook about the things that we're not hiding. So I think the question is, how do we, so I love that Ebony, what she's doing now. Normally if I came upon an Ebony writing about sex toys, I probably would not follow her because I wouldn't know who she was. Now, looking at her profile, I would see that she was a therapist and she's communicating, that these things are healthy, and, it's better to use healthy things than not healthy things. It's better for people to know they have a choice than they don't know they have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And I love what you're saying, Nicole. Now, my question is, how do we use it? How do we communicate that social media is a part of creating a healthy society, that it's a part of creating a healthy, intimate relationship? If I get to do a little search about something that could help my relationship with my husband. I met my husband on Match.com. I know my daughters met their husbands on dating sites. So, a lot of technology in our family. So how do we use what we have for the betterment, for the good?
Well, I think this goes into a territory that I have a very strong opinion about, and
Good. Go
that's
for it.
policing the internet.
Okay.
Um, the internet at this point in time does not have any laws. It has no guidelines. It has nothing. There's no governing body. With that being said, I also feel that the internet shouldn't have stringent laws, because the question becomes is who gets to make those laws? And if it's the same people who choose what's on TV, they're out because they don't know what they're talking about. But we also have to be able to make sure that our children are guided in the right way. And I love the programs that come out that help parents who are maybe not as technology savvy, that make sure that their kids can't get to certain sites. I think if we decided to police the internet, and I think it should be something that people agree to do, they rate their personal site, like their
Mm-hmm.
personal website, to a certain standard. So that way, if your child gets on the internet and they start looking for something and my site is rated mature only, they can't get to my website. It's blocked. And I think it's something that we need to,
Brilliant.
as human beings, embrace and say, you know what? I have to be conscious to the 30 million billion other people on this planet and say, if you're unable to be there every minute of the day and you can't police everything that your child does, because seriously, who can? Um, we also need to say it does take a village to raise a child. And I think that we need to offer a safe environment where children can learn. And we need to take away the porn and the nudity and all of these things, and offer up a way where children can be open and expressive and communicative, so that they don't feel like they don't have a place to go. Because I know many kids who've reached out to me that have said that, they feel like they can't talk to their parents. Okay, well, do you have a family member that you feel you can talk to? I'm very close with my aunt and I talk to her all the time. So I'm lucky in that aspect, but there are a lot of kids out there that aren't that lucky, and we need to make sure that the people they are speaking to are people like Ebony, who has a degree, who knows how to speak to people, and who is going to give them a judgment-free place where she can actually guide them to making their own decision.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You both are absolutely brilliant. And I think one of the things before Ebony takes over is it's not about all or nothing. It's not we can't do this at all. It's let's do it right. And that's we get caught in, when something happens and we can't do it anymore. That's not the case. Let's do it right. Let's find the way that these things are not, it's not all or nothing. It's that we find the ways that are legally, that support the health of our children, support the health of a healthy community, and where we can engage in things that are right, but not stop them entirely because it's not a Band-Aid.
Yes.
Ebony? Because they'll find it one way or another.
I was thinking about because again, my head is of a therapist, the safe environment and creating a safe space to have conversations. And so I do think that if you post something that could be seen as overly sexual or anything like that, and if someone comes to you and says, hey, I don't understand this post, or why would you do that, it gives you an opportunity to kind of explain your view of it and explain that this, to me, if I post a nude by an artist, isn't necessarily sexual. It's just a nude of a person. We're all human. We all have bodies. It's not supposed to be a sexual thing. So I think opening up the space for conversation and honest conversation is important. And so I think that can happen as we use social media more. We just have to kind of put ourselves in check and make sure that we're not coming from a place of being defensive or argumentative, and really explaining like this, my page, I know is not appropriate for certain people. And so I take it upon myself to make sure to try to keep it away from those people. But if someone does have a question or have feel a certain way about what's on my page, I'm okay with having a conversation and even understanding their point, because I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for me. I can speak for the people that I surround myself with. But it's important that I continue to see how other people are viewing the information that I put out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when, like you all said, it takes a village. So it's like it's not the school's fault.
Yes.
It's everybody's. It's not one person's fault or one person's job. It's all of our responsibilities to take care of the message, to take care of the children, to take care of ourselves. It's everybody's buy-in. And Amnon has something interesting to share too.
On Friday nights, we do a show at 8:00 called Parent Dome, and it's with Ryan Miller. And Ryan talks about how to keep kids safe with the internet, how to know when kids are, unfortunately, in many cases, smarter than we are, and they do things that to get into trouble, and we cannot really help them with that because we don't know that they're doing it. So he talks to you about what to do, how to do it, how to talk to the kid, how to pick up on things that happen with a child that says something, and you can say, okay, well, this is going somewhere that we don't need it to go to, and think. So I just wanted you to know, and maybe there's something that you guys can collaborate with him. And it's on Friday night at 8 p.m.
Okay.
So it might be
That's something I
good
would definitely be interested in, because I would like to take more responsibility on that part, because I know that I'm putting out information and I'm putting out images that, again, I don't want to try to parent anyone else's child or expose a child to something that they shouldn't be seeing. But I don't feel like that I should have to stop discussing the topics that interest me and that I feel like are beneficial to adults. So.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think that you have a responsibility to who you are and to the work that you're accomplishing. Because what are you accomplishing by doing that?
Yeah.
What are you accomplishing? What's your accomplishment?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, what's your accomplishment?
My goal is to open up the conversations that we aren't having. A lot of times, so in my work, I work with couples a lot, and it tends to always boil down to communication and intimacy. Those are just the issues. If they're having financial issues, it's communication. If they're not feeling as connected, it's usually intimacy. So it always comes to that. So my goal is to help couples really understand why that's important and how to improve upon those two aspects of their relationships. And with my podcast, the goal is to open up that conversation to communities that aren't necessarily talking about it. My podcast is kind of geared toward the African American community. We don't talk about certain things. We only talk about sex in one particular way. We don't talk about all the different topics and the different areas that, people may be interested in and aren't saying it out loud. So it's more about awareness. I just think that we should all be open and feel connected and respected, and respect other people that may be different from us or may have different lifestyles than we do.
That's probably like a whole nother conversation, because I didn't realize that in the African American communities that it's not discussed. So it's kind of in some regard changes things.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
social media, huh?
Sorry, I was gonna say it's very it's thought of in one way. We have very masculine, patriarchal types of the way we look at sex and relationships. And so I'm hoping that the podcast can bring in different options and just more information.
Right. And through social media, you get to speak to more people at one time.
Exactly.
Nicole?
Well, I hope to accomplish with pretty much everything with my writing is to break down these barriers that we have put up, and these topics that we consider taboo are no longer taboo.
Yep.
I would love to have a conversation where people don't giggle about sex. I mean, yeah, okay, it's funny for the first 5 minutes and then that's it. And after that, I want to have an intelligent debate and topic, something that we can all embrace, and we don't have to agree. And it's okay that we don't agree, as long as we all understand that our viewpoints are valid for us, and we can accept other people's viewpoints and respect them for it. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. Is I try to write my books to be, a little bit funny, because we need to poke fun at ourselves. We're way too serious when it comes to these topics. And especially here in the South, we tend to think that sex is one of those things we just can't talk about. I swear I get around some of my friends and I say masturbation and they scatter like cockroaches. Yeah. So I want it to be to the point where we can have these honest and open conversations with ourselves, our children, the people in our lives, and we can embrace the fact that we're different, and we don't have to agree. We don't have to find that we're all on the same page, just as long as we can respect someone else's viewpoint, just so that we can be happy.
Absolutely. And certainly healthier and safer. And several months ago I did a hangout. I used to do a hangout. Now it's on Blab, but I do a hangout about listening, and we did it about erotica, because it's such and I had no idea, honestly, what it really was. I had a thought of what I thought it was, and I'm an intelligent woman, but I don't talk about it. And I don't read about it, and I didn't pay any attention to the depth of it until we really got into the conversation and realized, what it really was about. And, again, we make these things wrong. And with the more education, with what you both are doing, you may be doing things in a different way, but, there is a camaraderie here, and you're both doing very important work to be able to get these conversations out, so people are not laughing about masturbation, and they understand what it is, and what it means, and what we can accomplish by doing these things and talking about it, and certainly asking more questions. So let me ask you both to, because we're almost, not quite, out of time, but I want to give you both some opportunities to share a little bit more about yourself, kind of your bodacious marketing, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So I know we started with Eboni in the beginning. Why don't we come to Nicole now?
Okay. Well, I guess I missed. You just want me to tell about myself, I guess.
Your book, where they find it,
Okay.
anything you are selling, sharing, because the people that we have on our show, we want them to share their products and services, because you're helping the planet.
Well, I hope I'm helping the planet.
I know you are.
That's my ultimate. That's that's where my heart is. I want to help the planet, and I want to help people be happier and healthier, and I want people to embrace who they are. And they can find me. I do have my own website, which is www.nicole-delacroix.com, because somebody stole the NicoleDelacroix.com. And I am an avid tweeter. Of course, obviously, I wrote a book using social media, so I'm big on social media. So yes, I like it when people connect with me on social media. Again, make sure that we have something in common, or you want to start a conversation with me. If you just add me without any idea of what I do, then I probably won't add you back unless I read your thread and find a common ground. But I love when people tweet me and they want to start a conversation, and I do not shy away from those tough questions and things that people find taboo. In fact, I usually stand up and I tend to try and take the path less taken. I do like to do the underdog, so to speak. Even if I don't believe it myself, I guess that's the debate club in me coming out. I do like to take the other side of things just to see what people will do when you do that, because it's a lot of fun. So, of course, my book is available on Amazon, and it's actually on sale for the next couple of weeks. It's a little birthday present to everybody else, even though it's my birthday. So it's on sale for the Kindle for 99 cents. So if you haven't gotten a copy, please, by all means, reach out and get a copy if you're interested.
So, Nicole, just one quick question. So, what would be a tweet that somebody would tweet to you that you would find a tweet that would be engaging that you would want to respond to? What would that be?
That would be someone that tweeted out to me and said, like your ideas on sex, what do you think about X, and fill in the X. I've actually had a couple of people who had read my book and wanted to get a little bit more in depth about bondage, and I'm happy to talk about those subjects. I did do a lot of research into a lot of the different fetishes and things like that. Anybody who's interested or has a question about something sexual, if I don't know the answer, I do know quite a few therapists, and now I can add Eboni to my list.
Yes, you can.
If I don't have the answer, I do try to revert them to a qualified therapist who can help answer their question if I feel like I can't offer anything productive.
Okay, perfect. Well, you both are such beautiful representations of this category, of this discussion. Beautiful representations. So, Eboni, what about you?
So I have a website, eboniharris.com. That's where you can get more information about me, about therapy that I do. And also, if you have any interest in our podcast, it's called Room for Relations. You can go to that website, roomforrelations.com. It comes out every Monday on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all across social media. I'm either at Room for Relations or I'm at Eboni Harris MA. One of those two, you'll find me. And if you wanted to get in touch or maybe have a question, the best way is probably through email, through the Room for Relations, just because I'm working on social media. I'm on there, but I'm not an avid tweeter. I'm going to go follow Nicole and try to get some of her skills. But I am on social media, but roomforrelations@gmail.com is probably the best way if you have any questions. I can't do therapy across state lines, but we can, answer questions, and we have listener letters that we do on the show every week where we talk about some of the questions that people have about sex and relationships. So that's probably a better way to reach out to me.
Terrific. And Nicole, I know we've touched upon many different things. So, and in the few minutes that we have left, I'd like you each to take, a moment or two and touch upon something that you would like to leave our audience with that we have not discussed.
Well, first and foremost, I want anybody who's listening who has that thought in their head, who thinks that maybe they're not good enough or they're not enough, I want you to stop thinking that way, because you are enough. You are exactly who you're meant to be, and you're beautiful just the way that you are. If you don't believe me, my book started from the fact that I thought I wasn't enough. And if you read my book, you'll be left hopefully with the message that we are all the same. We do have those same thoughts at some point in our life, and they do pass. And if they don't, then you do need to find a professional therapist, because that's not normal. And Eboni, you hit me up because I will help you build that tweeter list.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm there too because I love Twitter now, and Nicole is great at it, and she has a wonderful audience, and so between all of us, we can share healthy information.
Awesome.
So it's
Awesome.
fabulous. So yeah. So is that it? Was there that was it, Nicole?
That was it. I
Okay,
just want
perfect.
people to be happy and love themselves.
Perfect. And what about you, Ebony?
Along the same lines, I have been very big on pushing this whole selfishness can save your life and save your relationship. I think we, especially as women, take so much time to take care of other people. And we make sure that everyone else is okay, but we don't necessarily take the time to take care of ourselves. So I think that I in my relationships and individuals and people I work with, I'm already always stressing what is important to you and what does healthy look like for you. So what do you need in your life in order to feel like you're happier? And then start making those things happen. You decide what is good for you. You can't depend on other people, and it helps. It helps when you're in a relationship and you're starting to fulfill yourself and you're not leaning on someone else to fulfill you. So be selfish, take care of yourself. It will help you, and it will help the people that love you.
So it's kind of like the airplane effect. You have to
Exactly.
put the mask
Favorite.
on yourself, right? Before
Yes,
you can
yes,
put it on somebody else. So
exactly.
that was beautiful, and you've both been fabulous. And we've jumped around to many things, but what it boils down to, you all, is communication. Whether it's face to face or you use social media, you're looking for the same things. You're listening for the same thing. You're listening for a heart and a soul. You're listening for honesty. You're listening for trust. You're listening for the humanity in people. And if you don't hear it on social media with someone, ask, dig, find it. And it's there. I will tell you that there are some phenomenal people floating around social media. Phenomenal hearts and souls and brilliant people that are doing some great work. You can find them and they can find you. But the important thing is that we connect, that we use these tools, social media, break it down, Twitter, Facebook, any of it, face to face, as a means to connect, to get closer, to experience each other, to understand each other, to work with each other. It's very important that we do that and that we feel a part of something. And if social media is your tool or is a tool you want to get into, by all means, you can connect with Nicole, and she'll be a great connector, I promise. You can connect with me. Marilyn Listens on Twitter, on Facebook, Marilyn Shannon, The Breaking Free Show. We are about connection, and I am about answering your comments and your questions. And these two women are fabulous. So, regardless of what you're looking for, these are two women who can help teach you. So, anything you want to ask of each other, Nicole, is there anything you would like to ask to Ebony before we go?
Oh, I could come up with about 3,000 questions for her.
Ah,
She wouldn't have enough
is there
time. It'd be
one?
3 to 4 shows just to
It,
answer them all.
yeah.
I honestly, I just want to give her props for doing something that's so positive, because so many times we look into our own selves and we put up those walls and we don't try to offer a judgment-free zone. And I want to applaud her for offering people a safe environment where there's no judgment, especially when she can attack something that she feels so passionately about. So I just really just want to give her a little applaud.
Good.
I don't know if she can hear that or not, but there's a little applause for you.
Oh, she's going to hear it. Believe me, she's going to hear it. There it goes. And that's for both of you, because you're talking about a subject that is not easy to approach. From where do you approach it? From how? You've both taken on a way of talking about something, and you're both unique in how you do it. And it's fabulous. And so what about you, Ebony? Anything you want to share with Nicole?
Well, this has been awesome. I'm glad I've connected with you, and we're going to stay connected. I am curious if you could share, I know you said when you were talking about the book, one of the big things is that we're all the same, no matter the same no matter where we're from. Is there another big takeaway from that book? Because I'm very curious about the book and what I will find in it.
Well, I will be happy to send you a digital copy, Ebony. You just Marilyn will send me your email address and I will shoot you a copy. You just tell me what format you need it in.
Okay.
I honestly, I felt like I had opened the floodgates, and that I think that people really do want to be honest, and they really do want to share what's going on inside. And there's so very few places where they can do that they feel like nobody's listening. And I hope that they felt by answering my survey and participating in my book, even though it was meant to be funny and fluffy and, kind of silly, that they felt like they were in a judgment-free zone and they could kind of let go, so to speak, and just let them be themselves for once, because I think I fall into that same category, as I tend to put on that facade when I'm outside the building, and we're completely different when we're inside the house. And I kind of felt like opening myself up and actually putting my own fears and inhibitions on hold and putting them in the book, that it was raw and it was painful, and from painful comes growth, and it does happen. So I hope they take that away.
You both are, and I know that everyone will take this away, but let me tell you what to take away is the fact that these two women are real, and that there are real people doing this work, doing this and exploring this work and this conversation. And so that's important, that you can connect with real people and get real answers, and they're not kooky. They're real, right? So I commend you all. I applaud you all. Both of you are fabulous. You've been terrific guests on today. I appreciate it so very much. I look forward to continuing our connection on Twitter. And all of you out there, thank you so much for being here today and for enjoying the show with me. And all of you on the chat, thank you for being there as well. And I look forward to having you all join us again for another great show next week. Eboni, Nicole, you've been fabulous. Mwah!
Thank you, Marilyn. Mwah, you're wonderful.
Thanks you both. For having us. Thank you. It's a pleasure. We will have to do this again. Okay. Take care, everyone.
Anytime.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Parent Dome with Ryan Miller, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.